Hey team, and welcome. I'm your host, Carrie, creator of Mother Life, your destination for all things real talk and parenting. This is the IRL group chat, where we talk about the wild balancing act of pursuing careers and passions while also doing our best to show up for our kids. Join me every week as I sit down with some badass parents in my closet and we talk about their careers, kids, and relationships and all of the weird shit that comes up when you're trying to balance the seemingly impossible. Ultimately, why this podcast came to be is because when my son was born, it was a pandemic. No amount of Googling or scrolling was going to make me feel good about where I was getting my advice. I wanted that kind of help that would have, in less modern times, been dispensed around a campfire. I wanted to tap into my friends' knowledge. And very soon, it became more than just rashes and routines and fevers and wake windows that I came to my friends for perspective on. It became a group of people whose judgment and values I came to respect around all things. So then we were talking about relationships and careers and identity. Today's guest was introduced to the pod by one of our mothers in residence, So Super Sam. She has referred to this person as her parenting mentor on multiple occasions, and knowing how deeply I feel about the people that I have in my life like that, I knew that for Sam to say that really was high praise. Gabi Richmond is not like other moms, or at least not like other moms in the otherwise traditional suburbs of New York. She's nipples out, nails out, partying until 5 a.m. with her husband, and she's also at soccer practice. She's also on the PTA. She's making family dinner every night, and all around, just living for her two boys and her family. Some of her most favorite people to hang out with in the world are her kids, and if you hear about some of the people she hangs out with, that really is saying something. When Gabi isn't at home, she's putting a long career of bringing people together in novel ways to good use. Her expertise in experiential marketing is sought after by the brands you know and love, and her skill makes total sense when you hear her story. This one is for everyone out there figuring out how to be exactly who they are with kids. Enjoy. Gabi, welcome to the closet. Before we do anything, can you please show me your nails?
Okay, but don't look at
I'll only look at the nails that are not fucked up.
There's one that's broken because I'm a mom.
And you can live your life like that?
Yes, I refuse to live my life any other way. When the kids were babies, I had these also, and I
Wait. Sorry, reader. We're working with like a teal-ish, like, what is it? What's that shape called? Talon?
this is called almond. They're pretty long right now.
Guys, this is a nail that I could not button my fucking pants with.
You should, honestly, watching me do the car seat button, I've gotten to be a professional. I use like this part of my thumb. It's the pad of my thumb, so I don't break my nails.
I am. And well, we're going to get to division of labor soon, but I just need one more question on the nails. Who is like, do we have a dishwasher among the adults in your house?
Honestly, we both do it, but Jeff, my husband, Jeff, he is the one. We have our things that we separate. He doesn't do the cooking or the grocery shopping, or the meal contemplating, so he's the dish guy.
Okay, I kind of knew that because my nail tech, she has very long nails and she has these incredible nails. And I asked her and she was like, "Oh, I don't touch a dish." Because I feel like if you are washing dishes, those nails don't work.
Gloves do help, but yeah, I just also
Sister, friend, those nails would come right the fuck out of any gloves that I own.
they actually make rubber gloves for washing dishes that have nails on the outside if you want to feel.
We'll find some and put them in the show notes for anybody aspiring. Gabi, okay, welcome. We have a lot to cover today. You know what we do here. This is our first time getting into it. We've only had one previous sort of brief chat before this, but you have been identified as a baby whisperer mentor. Things I know about you are we love our grandma who's 93.
Nana is 92.
92. You grew up in LA and, were knee deep in the Jewish community growing up here. and your child eats kale Caesar salads. I think those are some top facts I know about you.
I love that. That
And
works.
we're gonna find a place for all of them. So we're gonna start with little Gabi, and we're gonna get to today, and we're gonna talk about all the shit in between. Are you ready?
I'm fucking ready. This is cute.
Let's go. All right. So Gabi, you grew up in LA.
Yes, I was born and raised in Los Angeles.
And where are you in? Do you have siblings?
Yeah, I have two brothers. I'm in the middle. Um and we're very different, but yes, two bros, two
Okay,
brothers.
thrilled to have a middle child on the podcast because I
Mhm.
know that you haven't listened to a lot of these episodes, but I really fuck with a birth order. And there's obviously a lot of stereotypes about middles,
Yeah.
especially a middle of three, because that's like a proper traditional middle, but you're the
It's
only girl.
actually it's not traditional though because my older brother is my full sibling and my younger brother is half.
Not
So,
traditional.
still
That throws the whole
not
thing
true.
out of the water, and
It
you're the
does.
only girl in the middle of two boys. So,
Yes.
well, but you said you're all very different.
Yeah, we're very different, absolutely.
Okay, so youngest is the half. So you grew up. When did your parents split?
My parents got
I'm
divorced.
assuming that they did.
Oh yeah, thank God. I have never known my parents to be together. I've never had a house where my parents were both living there. They got divorced when I was 2.
Me too.
Oh,
Oh, hi. Look at us being
hey.
functional people in the
Wow.
world.
Bless. Maybe this is the way to do it. We should tell everyone.
I know. We turned out okay. Okay, so your parents got divorced when you were 2. You were living in LA. Your brother was how old? Your older brother?
My brother is about 3 years older than me, so he was 5.
Okay, so he was 5. And you don't remember it. He, I'm sure, does in some ways.
I feel like maybe he's blocked it out.
Wait,
My
I have a
parent
question. Would you say you
Yeah.
have a good memory?
No, I don't.
Okay, me neither.
Like, I
And
have best friends who will tell me stories from when we were younger, and I'll be like, "Shit, I don't remember that about my life at all."
yeah, okay. I this might be another working hypothesis of the pod, but I have like a lot of my siblings and I all talk about how our memories are really bad, and I think there's maybe something there to unpack. I should probably ask my therapist, but whatever, we'll get there. Okay, so you guys are all growing up together.
Yeah.
Um or the two of you rather, and the parents get divorced. And was this a because you wouldn't have remembered the divorce, but you would have remembered obviously the aftermath of the divorce. Was it amicable? Was it nasty? Was it what was the custody situation like?
My mom had full custody. My dad, well, I guess that is how you would describe it. My dad had us every other weekend, and we did dinner with him Tuesdays and Thursdays. He would pick us up and take us to like Shakey's or Sizzler or something. Um, it wasn't nasty per se. My mom really never spoke poorly of my dad. But my dad was an addict. He is a recovering addict now. So it was messy, scary whenever he would pick us up for her. She didn't want him driving, but what can you do? So yeah, it was pretty wild, but it wasn't necessarily messy or nasty. My dad knew what he did. He knew who he was, and my mother was very political about it. She really just didn't speak poorly of him.
Good for her. And you
Totally.
have a relationship with both of them now?
My
Question mark.
dad, no, my dad, it's a little tricky for sure. There's a lot of trust things, and also being a parent myself now, it's just confusing how some of that could have gone. So
Because
I
all of a
definitely
sudden
have
you're thinking
feelings.
like, wait a minute, how like I am now a parent, and then you imagine that they were a parent of a small child, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, kind of like a how could this have been more important thing. So he's lovely, he's lovely now and he's grown a lot, but it's messy, it's complicated.
complicated. Well, it turns out the theme of this podcast every single fucking episode is it's complicated.
Hmm.
Turns out nobody's story is linear or makes perfect sense. Your half sibling,
Hmm.
who does that come from?
That comes from my dad. Both of my parents had been married 3 times. I've been to 4 weddings between
They
my 2
believe in love.
parents. Yes, they do. They're both on their last one. They're both like, they did it, they found it, they're with their people that they should
Yeah,
have been with all along, for sure.
great.
Yeah.
And are you close with your siblings now?
I'm not, no, we're not close. Like I said, we're so different. So we're not super close, but respect and love and hope they're happy.
And growing up here, obviously, what part of LA did you grow up in? Like which side of the hill?
I was born in Santa Monica. We grew up in Culver City, and then with my mom, my dad had a house like on Sunset Boulevard in West Hollywood. It was Rage City over there.
Bet it
He had
was.
an apartment there. And then when my mom, for a period, we lived with my grandparents for a few years in Cheviot Hills. And then when I was in high school, my dad moved to Studio City and my mom moved to Sherman Oaks. So I've lived all over.
You've done it all, but
Hmm.
you were like proper LA City kid
Oh,
for a
yeah,
lot of
for
that
sure.
time.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? Because there's the growing up in LA, growing up in New York. I think it makes for very interesting kids, but like think life happens faster to city kids than suburban kids.
Yeah. When I describe my childhood to people that are not from LA, or they come to LA and I show them around and I drive around with them and I say, "Oh, we used to hang out there. Oh, this is where my high school is." Going to private Jewish school in LA, it was such people are like, "Oh, this sounds like a TV show." Which is so funny to me because it was just life. But I went to a private Jewish school. My my mother was a single mom, so we didn't have the means like the rest of the people did that I went to school with, but I was lucky enough that my grandparents paid for me to go to private Jewish school. Everyone there is rich, their parents are famous, yada yada. So it was really fun. It was a lot. There was a lot of comparisons when I was little.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, I ended up throwing all the house parties in my dad's apartment in Studio City. So it worked out.
Everybody's bringing something to the table.
Everyone brings something to the table.
And what were the sorts of things that you gravitated toward in terms of your interests, school or outside of school? What sort of stuff were you into?
I've never been a school book learning
Yeah.
person. That doesn't
Yeah.
make sense. But
Yes, it does.
I'm glad that you understand what I'm saying. I was all about the socializing. I did gymnastics for a very long time. But really more just I want to hang out with my friends. I don't want to be home. I wanted to socialize and go out and be fun.
And were there like hobbies besides gymnastics? I know that's like kind of a huge one because it takes up so much time
Hmm.
if you're doing it a lot. But
Yeah.
were you a kid that was super into music or super into art or cooking or like what were you doing with your friends or were you guys just like fucking around at parties and stuff?
No, I mean, I've always been very into fashion and, just going to the Melrose Flea Market or vintage stores and cutting up clothes and doing something weird with it. Um, I was always doing art with my friends, whether we were doing each other's nails or some art projects that we did at home. But it was a lot of just cutting up clothes and making weird shit out of it, honestly, which
I
was freeing because I had to wear a uniform at school. So,
mm,
yeah, yes.
I went through phases of uniform and no uniform and looking back and now being a parent, I'm like, oh, I do get the value of the uniform thing.
I get it. Yeah.
And
Especially all
now
the
I get
comparisons and the phones and all the crap that our
yeah.
kids are going through. Yeah.
Yeah. And like the tiny little subtle things like I don't know if this was a thing here, but like huggy earrings.
Hmm.
Like and like having the right huggy earring. Like there were just
Hmm.
certain things where it was like even though you were in the uniform, people were still
Yeah.
figuring out ways of being like, I have more or
Yes. Absolutely. All the time. I also had
um
really big boobs, so the uniform like couldn't necessarily
it
keep
couldn't
them in,
handle
and I
it.
always got in trouble for having big boobs. It was just I don't know.
Make a better shirt, guys. Um okay, so then what happens for you after high school?
I just knew I wanted to go to New York. And like I said, I wasn't great. I wasn't a great student, so I got into Pace University in New York. I really wanted to go to NYU, but I did not have the grades at all, or the attention span. So I moved like right away. I went to Pace University, which is like smack dab in the middle of the city. It's downtown. And my parents dropped me off, and I just was free.
Was it everything that you hoped it would be?
The city was, absolutely. I think it's very different than going to a campus school, with the
Totally.
sporting events and all the things. The city was my campus.
Yeah.
So I made friends at NYU immediately. I had a boyfriend at NYU. I really just ended up fucking around and making friends and, doing Adderall in the NYU library most of the time.
I spent a lot of time in that library. We may have crossed paths at some point.
Great library, honestly.
Great library, a little freaky
Mhm.
at times, but overall a good library.
Yeah.
And you said your parents dropped you off and you were free. Was there a feeling of like wanting to start over on your own terms and sort of, because you had sort of been in this one little fishbowl in LA and the parenting stuff is like slightly unreliable or a little chaotic for you? Were you just like, I want to put my stake in the ground away from all of this?
Yeah, absolutely. It was really chaotic. But my parents, they're so different. Their families are so different. My mom is like her family's very cookie cutter. Everyone is very well mannered and wonderful and lovely and, has their shit. And my dad's family is it was insane. My grandmother was a madam. She like developed sex toys. She was the first person to develop flavored sex oils. She had like a sex shop, and we would go to the factory when I was a kid, and see all these sex dolls.
She's like,
So,
taste this product.
like, honestly, she was insane. But a genius. But so I just wanted to go to New York and get away and start over. I ended up, losing like 20 pounds freshman year, and I felt like a new person. And it was really fun. And yeah, the freedom.
And while you were there, did you start to put together a piece or like the puzzle of, well, how do I want to make money? How do I want to have a livelihood after leaving here?
Yeah, I think it honestly started when I was in high school and I was throwing parties at my dad's house or my grandmother's house. One time accidentally was a huge party. And I kind of fostered that talent. And I went to school for a year, but I met promoters and I was going to clubs, and my parents told me that I couldn't go back to school because I got shitty grades. I went home after freshman year, and they said, your grades are shit. You're not going back. We're not paying for you to do this. And I said, well, fuck you. And I got on a plane, and I just stayed on my friend's dorm floor and started working in nightlife and started throwing parties at clubs when I was 19.
Oh my God, that takes some real balls, and like you have to be scrappy to make that work.
Yes, totally. It was a little scary sometimes.
Well,
But
that's what I was
did
going to
it.
ask. Like, I mean, did you feel like, oh my God, there's no safety net here? Like it's just me or the ground?
Honestly, it felt a little safer. I've always been someone who, my friends are my family at times. A lot of times it felt a little more stable for me. So it was just scary because where is money going to come from? How am I going to pay for things? I'm 18. I'm in New York. I was totally cut off. But it was also really invigorating because I could just do what I wanted to do.
You have to feel so proud. Like, you must feel so proud of yourself. I hope you feel so proud of yourself. Like, that's a
Yeah.
big fucking deal.
Yeah,
New
it felt
York is one of
great.
the most expensive cities in the world, and you're just like, doo, I'm gonna do it the Gabi way. Bye-bye.
Yeah, it's so expensive. And my best friend and I ended up getting a 450 square foot apartment in Soho, which I don't know why we would move to the middle of fucking Soho, literally Sullivan and Prince.
Sure.
So the most expensive area in New York, but we wanted to live in Soho. So
You wanted to be where the action was.
right. So like we had one bedroom, our feet touched while we were sleeping, but we just did it. We were happy,
It's amazing when you look back on those times that feel like so hard and so scary, and you're like, wait, those were like beautiful times actually.
Mhm.
Fuck. Like, I
Yeah.
remember when I was living in New York and broke, I would you know how there are all those little independent like taco shops that, are like one window big? I
Hmm.
would go and just like buy a pack of the homemade flour tortillas for like $1. And would just be eating flour tortillas and tasty delight. Like that is what
Hmm.
I would subsist off of somehow.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, it's no wonder I have gastrointestinal issues now, but at the time it was a real bargain.
Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
it seemed at the time, I just remember being like, wow, I'm so financially responsible. Like I just
And
remember,
being so smart about this. Also, all hot girlies have stomach problems. So, you know,
do you hear that, guys? We might have to make that a Gabi meme.
it's
It's true.
true.
It's true. Okay, so now you're in New York, you're throwing these parties. Clearly, there's something from a very early point of like you care about your community and you like bringing people together to have a good time.
Hmm.
This is
Yeah.
like, we're talking like high school. You're already starting to be this person. Then you figure out, okay, in this way, I can start to make money doing this. When do you then make the leap into sort of formalizing this skill set more in the kind of marketing space?
It took a while. I mean, I was 18 and basically a doorman at clubs and I was promoting. And then I had these friends who wanted to throw fashion shows at One Little West 12th in Meatpacking. And I was the doorman there and we just decided to do fashion shows there once a week.
Wait, I'm sorry.
And
The idea of you being a doorman is my favorite
because I'm
because
5'1",
yeah, I was about to say, Gabby, how tall? She's 5'1".
I'm
She's a
5'1".
doorman, but
Yeah.
also I find that like it's the ones that are 5'1" that you don't fuck with. I'm
Hmm.
5'10". People fuck with me all the time. It's the ones with the long nails and the 5'1" that like we're not fucking around with.
It's just inevitable. If you're short, you probably have a bad attitude.
Bad or bad bitch attitude. That's different.
Both, both,
Okay.
both, both, both.
Okay, so you start kind of branching out beyond the parties. You're doing these fashion shows, and then what's the next progression from there?
And then I started doing the door at this place called Gold Bar, but I was also the owner's assistant. Um, and I really latch on to people. I don't know if this is a thing for me. I'll talk about it with a therapist at some point, but I latch on to men who are in a position who are like my boss. It's never been like a sexual thing. I've never dated any of them. I like to learn from them, I think, historically in my life. Um, so this guy was the owner and he was my boss. And he just started taking me everywhere with him. He started a DJ company and we took this party that they did on Sundays that became iconic in New York called Fun Day. And we went to Miami, we went to Cannes Film Festival, we went to Sundance, and we brought this party. He brought me with him. I was like 20 at this point. And I really learned a lot from him. I soaked it up. Um, and and then I I guess I met my husband. I wouldn't let him in. I didn't let him into Gold Bar. He tried getting in. And
Don't fuck with the 5'1" white man's. I
I
mean,
just
that's
he's beautiful, but I didn't let him in. And then he opened a spot in New York. And I became the doorman there and I was a doorman for 6 years. It was really primarily how I made my money in between like working Fashion Week at Milk Studios.
Can you, now that we're
Um,
past this chapter, I don't think I'm being indelicate. Like, what's a doorman making doing this kind of job?
I was making 150 a night when I was doing it.
Okay.
So, I was working like 3 or 4 nights a week. And then during the day, I had all sorts of odd jobs. I was styling shoots. I was doing Fashion Week stuff at Milk Studios. I was helping friends on set however I could. I was just really hustling
You're
so I could
scrapping it together.
pay bills. Yeah, absolutely. Um, and I really started to be drawn to the fashion events and the larger productions when I was doing Fashion Week. It was like my favorite time of year. It was the best. Um, and then I, Jeff and I were getting married, and he was like,
Wait,
"You
wait, wait.
can't."
Pause. We have to go
Yeah.
back. So you didn't
Okay.
let him into the bar. He then
Right.
opens his own place.
Hmm.
He's like, oh, she's great at being a doorman because she didn't let me into this place. So she clearly has great taste. Let me poach her and have her work at this place. How does this transpire? And where
My
do we start
friend,
making out?
my friend Adam he told me he was opening a new spot. And I went to look at it. I was looking at the construction. I was being such a little bitch. I was 21. I thought I was incredible. And I was walking around telling them what I liked and what I didn't like. And then his business partner, my husband, walks in.
My
And
husband.
I was like, oh, he's Adam. He's hot. And Adam was like, do not even think about it. He's my business partner. I don't want to deal with this. And all the business partners, there were 3 of them at the time. They made a bet. This is never going to last. Like, you owe us a steak dinner if this doesn't last. And we've been together for 15 years, but I would do the door. So his friend hired me. I would do the door. He would manage. He would watch me on the cameras from the back, like watching me flirt with people and let people in. And now we have 2 kids together,
Wow. That's so cute. What was it
Yeah.
about, other than him being hot? What were like the big things where you're like, this is a guy I want to spend time with?
Jeff is really smart. He's really social. We're both really social and bubbly and fun. We like to foster community, foster a great vibe, a party. We both do this for a living, which is hilarious. And I think we just feed off of each other's energy.
Yeah.
But he's so smart, and he's a really sweet, kind person. And he can also be a huge fucking asshole, honestly, which so can I. So that really works for us.
Yeah.
So we speak the same language.
And I ask in part because obviously when you being anybody have had a tricky time with a father figure growing up, you can't help but reflect on what kind of partner you're going to look for when it's your turn. And, I don't think I did a lot of that, actually. It luckily worked out. But did you have in your mind, like, I don't want this, or I do want this? These are the things I really like or don't like, or want to repeat or don't want to repeat? Or was it just like so far removed that it was just kind of an organic connection, divorced of all that?
It was really an organic connection. The only times I've ever thought about what I want and what I don't want is how I am as a mother. I also think something that drew me to him was his family. His family is so lovely. His mom and dad, they're still together. They're wonderful. I've always had a really good relationship with his mom. And his sister is 3 months older than me. We get on like white on rice. We're like 2 little meatballs running around, honestly. She's my size as well. And one of my best friends now. So his family also gave me something that I never had, truthfully. Yeah.
That's a dream. And so you guys, you get married after how long dating?
We were dating for 5 years. And at this point, he said, you can't work at my bar anymore. We're getting married. We're engaged. So I applied for a job at Refinery 29. And they said, have you ever done experiential production and experiential marketing before? And I said, absolutely. I had not. I lied.
Yeah.
I
Fake it till you
learned
make
from
it,
the
sis.
world. Exactly. And that job really changed my life. So I was married and had a great job. It was a good track. 26 is a good year for me.
26. I
Mhm.
mean, that's basically Southern by marriage by dates. That's very impressive.
Yeah.
So you're 26. You've got a great job. You've got your man. And at what point in sort of leading up to getting married or after did you guys talk about having a bigger family? Did you both know you always wanted kids?
Yeah, we definitely did. We both knew we wanted kids. Jeff has always been really good with kids. I don't know if it freaked me out or drew me to him more, but I was not that way at all. I was not as good with kids. I didn't really know how to interact with children.
Yeah.
I always felt kind of weird. I didn't want to be, I always felt a little weird. And, now I realize that this is why I am how I am with kids, because I actually don't change anything when I'm speaking to a child. I speak to them exactly how I speak to anyone else. And
Yeah.
that's what works for me. So I just didn't realize I didn't need to change anything when
Yeah.
speaking to kids. Yeah.
But
we always knew.
I'm the same. I'm absolutely the same. And my husband is as well. Like sometimes I'm like, I think you're taking it too far. Like I walked downstairs the other day and he was trying to explain like centripetal motion or something to our 4-year-old. And I'm like, fine with the concept, but like was not changing a single fucking word in his vocabulary. And he's like, it'll just sink in at some point.
At some point he'll get it.
Yeah, at some point he'll get it. Okay, so you both knew that you wanted to have kids. Was there in your mind, you're like, I'm 26, I want to have kids by X date? Or was it Jesus take the wheel, it'll happen when it happens?
I didn't really have a date in mind. You know, I did feel young. I didn't have friends that had children yet. So I think that definitely takes the pressure off. Instagram, social media, it was also different as well. You know, we didn't have as much information about infertility, so I wasn't scared about that. And we didn't have as much pressure coming from like mommy influencer communities to be a certain way. So I had the freedom and the ability, which I didn't know back then, to just do what I wanted to do. We were more just young and in love, and we had to move back to LA for Jeff's business. And I was like, oh shit, we're moving back to LA. We could have a baby there. I don't necessarily want to have a baby in New York. So that kind of changed things for us a bit. But we ended up needing to move so that they could build another location in LA. And my job, I was supposed to have the job on the West Coast, but when I moved, the experiential marketing department of Refinery 29 on the West Coast imploded like the minute I got there.
Great timing.
Great timing. So we moved. We went on a bunch of vacations with friends. I had some freelance jobs with production, and we were in Greece. I was 27 and we were in Greece, and we were just like in love in the sunshine. I was like, I want a baby. I'm ready. And we just kind of tried, and it happened. I sneeze and get pregnant. I'm very lucky, which is, you know, I know that that is a blessing because a lot of people are not like that. And, you know, we were living in LA and I got pregnant. I was 27, which honestly seems insane at this time. And I didn't have a full-time job. I was still freelancing, but the bigger I got, pregnancy-wise, my belly, the less people wanted to hire me. You know, we know that pregnant women can fucking do anything and we're badass gangster, but people look at you differently. So they were like, this girl's not going to want to lift things. She's not going to want to build. She's not going to get onto a ladder, etc. So I was having a hard time finding work the more pregnant I got, which was really scary for me. Coming from a house with a single mom, I've never had the thought that I would rely on a man for money, especially because I come from so much divorce. I want to make sure that I am always good and I'm the one providing for myself. I don't want to be in a scary situation. So I was freaking out. And then when I was 7.5 months pregnant, Shopify reached out to me on LinkedIn, and I got headhunted, and I was really excited, but I was also like, fuck, I'm pregnant. Like, are they going to hire me? And so I had my first 3 interviews with them, and they were video interviews. So I just made sure to like wear a black turtleneck. I didn't show my body at all. And I just didn't say anything. And then I got to the 4th interview, and, you know, I mentioned having male figures who are my bosses. I met Cody, changed my life. He met me for my 4th interview. He was living in LA, and I got there half an hour early so I could be wearing this black turtleneck, sitting down at the table. And we had our interview. You couldn't tell I was pregnant because I was sitting when he arrived. And it felt like a really good interview. I was like, shit, like I might get this job. This is amazing. And at the end of the interview, I was like, okay, I have to tell you something. I'm 7.5, 8 months pregnant. And he was like,
it's so like, fucking pregnant, Gabi.
It's so pregnant. It is so pregnant.
It's not a little pregnant.
No, that is really fucking pregnant. And I was like, dude, like I'm pregnant. And I don't know if it is because it was for a Canadian company. I don't know if it's because his wife is a doula and they're like a magical family. But I was like, I'm pregnant. And he was like, okay, and I was like, wait, what do you mean? And he was like, I want to invest in you. Like, you're an investment for me. And I ended up getting hired. I gave birth. I got hired 3 weeks before I gave birth. But they were like, you're an investment. Take your mat leave and then come back and crush it. And I only took 2.5 months because I was scared that I was going to get fired and I wanted to do well. But, you know, that started the journey.
But those people are so transformational, and some of us have them in our lives. And by the way, I have a very similar thing. I had an older male boss. I don't have a good relationship with my dad. I had an older male boss. Sorry, Mark, if you're listening to this, that I called you older, but you are older than me. He was my boss directly for 5 years. And then I moved to a different part of the company in a leadership role because of him for another 5 years. And I mean, there's, by the way, something totally there about just having somebody 100% ride for you and believe in you and invest in you. That is a guy. If you don't have the type of relationship you want from a dad, I think that is for sure a thing, but also kind of healing in a way. Like, I think it's a healthy thing.
Yeah.
And also, I remember both 2 weeks postpartum with my son interviewing for jobs on Zoom, and I'm like sweating out of every orifice of my body, like you're just fucking disgusting, and like you're leaky and whatever, and I'm trying to look put together and trying so hard to hide the fact that I've just had a child. And then also with my second interviewing for jobs when I was pretty pregnant and just being like, I have to hide this. I have to hide this. And a friend of mine, her husband was asking me how the job hunt was going. Colin, shout out Colin. And I explained that I was nervous about them knowing I was pregnant. And he was just like, he works in finance. Well, that's illegal. They can't do that. And it was so pure and so sweet and came from such a good place. And I was just like, fuck, like you guys have no idea. Just because it's illegal doesn't mean it doesn't happen all of the time. So for you to have somebody who's just like, I see that this is not a 1-year commitment, that we're going to be together for a long time, is magic. And also, what a fucking boost for you, just psychologically.
Yeah, it was incredible. But no, he definitely rode for me, and he's still a part of my life. His whole family, I love them so much. So having people like that, I think, really can change the course of your life. Just being nice to people and like seeing them.
Yeah.
Special.
If you need something done, ask a mom to do it.
Yeah.
Like we don't have a lot of time, so we have to execute. So when you did give birth after going and you went back to work after 2.5 months, how did becoming a mom, did it rock your world? Did it change your perspective? How was it with your husband in terms of like division of labor and dynamics? Were there things that surprised you? What was it like?
I mean, my husband actually, Jeff, had postpartum depression, actually.
Say more. Tell me more.
It was so interesting. And I think today it's different. Jax he's almost 8. I think today it's different. I think dads are more emotional because of social and they connect on these things, but nobody was talking about how men feel after people give birth. I mean, fuck, no one was talking about how hard breastfeeding was. So why would they talk about that? That was a shock to me. But we went for our first alcoholic bev 2 weeks after I had Jackson, my oldest. His parents came into town to meet the baby and to help. They live in New Jersey and we were in LA at the time. And we went on our first date night. It was going to be my first margarita in 10 months, probably 11 months at this point. And we're sitting at a bar and, I look insane probably. And I'm an emotional mess because, I just pushed a human out of me. And we're sitting at the bar and I've had probably 5 sips of my margarita. And Jeff says, I don't love our son. And I was like, this is good. I'm so glad you're telling me this right now in public after I've had alcohol. I was like, cool. So you're saying you don't love our son. He was like, I just don't love our baby. I'm sorry.
He hasn't connected to the baby.
Yeah, sure. You don't have tits. You're not feeding it. But, I was like, okay, this is great. And I just didn't really know how to handle that information. And Jeff didn't really connect with Jax until Jax was like 3 months old. That's not to say he was not by my side the whole time. He helped. He did the things. The division of labor, like obviously not super equal ever when you have a baby, but he did what he could. He did as much as he could. And, so that was interesting, but I became more sensitive. I think from that point, I've never really been a very sensitive person. And that was like the first thing that I think started to change me was, oh shit, I have to be here for this person, even though I'm going through all of these things. I have to also be here for my husband because he's sad. Even though
Gabby,
he
I'm
shouldn't be.
so glad that you're bringing this up because two things. One, I actually don't think men are that much more in touch than they were 8 years ago on this stuff.
Mhm.
Because a lot of this Instagram shit about dad talking about their feelings is just sort of like emotion porn for women. Like, I don't actually think men are consuming that much of it.
I totally agree.
So I like that's like, you know, hearing some sensitive dad talk about the shit they do around the house that basically just makes women mad at their husbands. I don't think it's actually like connecting with men
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
Second, that point about our partners still needing us emotionally when we're going through the hardest time in our lives is something that I think is super overlooked and also fucking annoying and super frustrating, but important. I remember when I had a miscarriage, like it wasn't just me that was upset that I had a miscarriage. And I just remember being so mad at my husband because I felt like he wasn't there for me emotionally. And a friend of mine was just like, he also is experiencing a loss, and you guys process loss really differently. So it's
Mhm.
not that he's being an asshole to you or that he doesn't understand, but like he's processing because he just thought that you guys were about to be on this trajectory that you're not on. And I was like, it was like, oh right, he does have feelings and is a part of this family, and I can't just put myself on a pedestal all the time in these
Yeah.
situations. It's so annoying. I mean,
It is.
valid and annoying.
Yeah. Valid and annoying is honestly the perfect way to describe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
And also, like, I feel like that 3 month mark when they started to connect is like when babies stop being slightly less potato like. And then really around 5, 6 months when they're
Yeah.
like able to do a smile or whatever. And I think we don't talk. I mean, when I have babies, the two that I've had, they come out and I'm like, hey, I've never met you before. Like, nice to meet you. I'm mom. Like, this is your name. But it's not like I'm like gagging over this kid yet. I want to make sure they're safe and stuff. But I am not one of those people who has an instantaneous connection that is like, I love you so much. It's like it takes me a minute to be like, oh, hey, what's up? Nice to meet
Me
you.
too. I'm so glad you're talking about that because me too. And I feel like people make you feel like shit for that. But first of all, my body is broken and
Broken.
like just unrecognizable. But I don't know you and you've not given me anything. And I
Yeah.
have to give you everything, which is fair. I signed up for this, of course, but it's really hard. And the
Yeah.
connection point, I'm not obsessed with infants like other people are. Like somebody has a baby, I'm not like, give me the infant. I'm
Yes.
good. Like 6 months to a year, let's hang. I
Yeah.
will vibe with your kid, but I'm okay.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
Absolutely same. Yeah. I mean, we have mainly like movies, I think, to thank for that sort of inaccurate portrayal. Because anytime I say this out loud, so many of the women in the room are like, oh my God, me too. I mean, there's of
Hmm.
course women who are like, I immediately felt it, but a lot of women didn't. And that's fine. And certainly if that's true for women, it's going to be true for men.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
So, and then in terms of now, Jax is 8. And how old is your youngest?
Sunny is 4.
Sunny's 4. So, as Jax is getting older, was there a point where you're like, we're ready to do this again?
I was doing experiential marketing for Shopify and I was hosting all these big events at the space that we opened. I was a director at this point. And we opened a space and I was running all the programming and I was there, twice a week with a microphone in my hand. And sometimes I had Jax with me during the events and I would like have him on my hip when he was 1.5, 2. And I would be introducing Bobby Hundreds or Jesse Andrews or like all these incredible iconic designers and brand owners in LA with my kid on my hip, which is so important to me that they see that I hustle and I crush it and like what my job is. And I also think for other people to see that moms are badass and we can have incredible jobs and be really smart and also like take really good care of our kids. That's so important to me. So that was really a lovely thing that I got to do. And then, the world shut down for COVID. But before that happened, Jeff and I bought our house. So we bought our first house together in Highland Park. Such a cutie. It was so cute. Um, in November 2019. And we were like, oh, it's gonna be the best. We're gonna have so many good parties. I love it. We have a house. Finally, it's ours. And then December 2019, Jax was almost 3. No, he was 2.5. And I was like, I think I'm ready to have another baby. And Jeff was like, okay, we had to potty train. Like that, he's so funny. He's very,
Practical. Like, we got to handle
specific.
this, and then we
Yes. I was like, I think I'm ready to have a baby. He was like, tight. We're potty training this weekend. And I was
tight
like,
for potty training.
like, that's like an interesting way to look at it, but sure, cool. And we did the 3-day method and we potty trained Jax, and then we like had a night. I woke up the next morning. I like felt my tits. I was like, I'm pregnant. And then the world shut down for COVID. It was like a very wild trajectory of events.
Okay, so our kids must be very close in age then. You said 4. What month for the birthday?
Sunny turned 4 in October, and Jax will be 8 in June.
Yeah, so my oldest, the 4-year-old, is September. So we were in it at the same time.
Oh yeah, we were.
With the COVID babies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take this to my grave. Tight, let's potty train. Like, that is the funniest fucking thing I've ever heard. To be a fly on the wall. And you mentioned the 3-day method. What, in terms of your like approach to parenting, our mutual friend really looks up to you on how you make choices about how you parent. And so it'd be great to hear a little bit about like how you think about it in terms of the mechanics of, potty training and introduction to food. Like, what's your approach and strategy? And now that Jax is older, he's getting into like the more complicated feeling stuff. So how are you navigating both of those stages?
When I was pregnant with Jax, we only read one book. I mean, aside from What to Expect, of course. We read, what is it? Raising Bebe?
Yeah, Bringing Up Bebe.
Bringing Up Bebe, thank you. It's the only book we read. And, I'm so obsessed with that book. If for anyone that doesn't know what that book is, it is about an American raising her kid in Paris. And something that really stuck out to me in the book, it's a really big part of how I parent my kids. This woman was talking about how, if her friends stay over late and they're having a drink and they're chatting and they're having a time, if her kid wants to stay up, he can stay up, but he is then getting into adult time, and like you'll either sit and hang out with us and like have adult time, or you can go to bed. Those are the 2 options. And that really impacted how we looked at parenting. We don't have to change our lives that much. We don't which like that's a fucking joke. Obviously our lives have changed, to be clear. But we can still be social. We can have friends. We can take our baby to do what we want to do. We, like I said, we were the first of our friends. So we still wanted to do what they were doing. So we just took Jax everywhere. But Jeff and I are both in hospitality of sorts and making people happy and setting vibes. So it's always been really important that our kids are sociable. Look people in the eye when you speak to them. Introduce yourself. Shake their hands. And I'm not shitting on anyone that does this, but we don't do screen time when we go to restaurants. Like, my bag is always full of crayons and just stuff to play with. Sit with us at the table, be a normal person. And of course it was difficult in the beginning, but now I'm seeing the fruits of our labor. We go to dinner with our kids at any restaurant, and they sit and they tell the waiter what they want to order in a really polite manner while looking him in the eye. And then like my kids will turn to me and say, so Mom, how was your day? And it's just so crazy that we've fostered these little people to be people that we want to hang out with. I just want people around me that we want to hang out with. I don't want to be yelling at you all the time. So, and like I said before.
And so you're really not yelling at your kids all the time?
I do not like to yell at them, honestly. Like, if they're not listening.
Yeah, what do we do if they're not listening?
If they're not listening or they're being assholes, the only times I've ever really yelled at my kids is like one time Jack said something kind of violent to Sunny. Like, he heard it from school. Yeah. And I lost my shit.
Yeah.
He said something about like putting a knife in your belly, and Sunny looked scared, and I lost it. But otherwise, like, go to your room. I'll deal with you in a minute. I'm going to breathe. And then I go into whoever's room it is, and I sit on the floor with them, and I get on their level, and I explain why this isn't okay, why I got mad, why I reacted that way. Um, I'm just really, I speak to kids like I speak to adults. I'm a very communicative person. I'm very transparent. I do not have a bone in my body that's good at lying about anything ever. I'm honestly too honest and too transparent. But with my kids, if I'm having a bad day and I'm getting my period and I'm cranky, maybe I'll be a bitch to them, but then I'll go into their room and I'll say, like, they know when it's my time of the month. We've kind of talked about what this is.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, hey, like, I'm having that tummy ache time of the month. I'm really sorry. I grew up in a house where what my mother or what my grandmother or what my aunts and uncles said goes, because they're the grown-ups and they're right because they're the grown-ups, or because I said so culture. And it always really drove me crazy. It always made me feel small. I was the black sheep always. I always had a bad attitude with my family, honestly. But in hindsight, maybe it's because I couldn't communicate with them like I wanted to. So I'm just making sure to not only communicate my things to my kids, but also giving them space to tell me things. Like, I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
I'm open to feedback. My family was never open to feedback. I really still don't think they are. Sorry, Mom. I know that you're probably listening. But, I like to treat my kids like I like to be treated.
Yeah. I think that's beautiful. And then, so it's so funny because I also loved that book, and there's so many facets to that book because it really is holistically how this woman in France is raising her child and the observations. But what makes me laugh is, like, I don't actually remember that piece, which you describing it makes me love it all over again. Like, you want to stay up, like, cool. But the part that I laser focused in on was the food shit, like what they're eating at, like, the creche and all of this shit, like, really dialed in on that. And when I asked Sam, like, is there anything you want me to ask Gabi, and she was like, get her to talk about food, like, why is her kid eating kale Caesar? Talk to me about that experience.
Um, you know, I don't know if it's because I had weird food things growing up. I probably still have weird food things, honestly.
Like, you mean like sort of disordered eating stuff?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. But first of all, I love eating healthy. I like that it makes me feel good, but it goes back to transparency with my kids. And also, I do remember a part in that book where they were very specific about snack time. Like, they would leave
4 o'clock.
school. 4 o'clock. Yes, I'm obsessed. I think about it all the time. 4 o'clock, that's when you can have your snack, but they're not precious about it. Maybe they buy a cupcake one day. Maybe it is vegetables one day. Um, and so I love food. I love healthy food. So I always just would give my kids whatever we were eating. Um, and I really don't know why I set this rule, but I set this rule internally. Like, I'm not going to be a mom who is making a different meal for every person in the house. I'm going to make one thing and you'll eat it. So when they were very young, I started putting, like, greens in everything. No matter what I made, I was putting spinach, I was putting peas, just so that they would, like, get used to it, because I didn't want it to be a problem later on. I don't know if that's a scientific fucking thing, but I just started doing it. And I also noticed that, maybe I need to work with kids. I don't know, but we figured this out on our own. But I also noticed that if I became obsessed with something, a food on their plate, or if they didn't want to eat it and I was like, you have to eat it, you have to eat
Then
it,
they were definitely not going to eat it.
they're not going to eat it. So
Yeah.
instead, just don't pay attention to what they're doing. Don't pay attention to their plate. Let them figure it out. Explore. This is your own journey, dude. And they love everything. Jax is obsessed with sushi. Sunny, I honestly think he is so obsessed with salads and wants them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. All greens, all fruit. He prefers it over anything because I had gestational diabetes when I was pregnant with him. I really think it changed his palate or created his palate. Like my son Jax, he's older. Girl, like, listen, he will eat anything, but he prefers marshmallows and candy and talks about it all the time. Trust. But Sonny just wants fruit, vegetables. It's really crazy. Um, but with Sam, we talk about it, and we talk about the different phases that her toddler has been in with food, and it's really opened my eyes, like, to what we have done. I never really thought back to like what the plan was from different phases. But talking her through some of it and then seeing it help has been really incredible. So
Well, I think that's one of the things is like, and there is more and more about this, but ultimately, like, you can consume as much Instagram shit about parenting as you want, but ultimately, like, we all just want to be able to call our friend and be like, hey, like, this is what's fucking me up right now, or my kid is being such a shit and I cannot figure out why, or whatever it is. It's like listening to Dr. Becky tell me to acknowledge my kids' feelings, like, is only going to get me so fucking far. And by the way, it's not that fucking far. Okay? It's not. Like, there sometimes you just need more, and it's so important to have those people in your life where it's like, you're not going to want to parent the same way as everybody, but to have one person where you're like, oh, you and I are similar vibes, we're values aligned on these things, what you do really resonates with me, you're my phone a friend, I think is so important. So
absolutely.
important for like just mental health.
I also think it's wild how judgmental people can be. And I feel like the judgy culture between moms is so terrible. So I also have, because I was one of the first, I also just try not to be judgmental about how anyone is parenting, like unless they're being a violent or something. And like,
Yeah.
it's just, of course. But I just listen to people and I give advice how I see fit and how I would want to be. I treat people how I would want to be treated. I don't judge anyone. So it's also like a comfortable space to
Yeah.
talk to people about things. I'm also, like I said, very honest. So
Well, I think it's amazing. Now, for you that you are in this next chapter, because like you are out of diapers, you now have moved back to New York from your LA time, and you guys live in the city now or out of the city?
we live in Westchester. It's like a 20-minute drive to the city.
Great schools, high taxes.
Great schools, girl. High taxes. Tell me about it.
So now you're in this next chapter. Your kids are really in a different phase. Do you think about your career differently or similarly now that they're a bit older? Are there things that you really want to achieve? How are you sort of thinking about what percent of your day is spent in mom mode versus work mode?
I have a different job now. I'm not at Shopify anymore. I'm at a fintech company. I'm a director of experiential.
I was reading about it yesterday. It's got very like cute graphics and stuff.
It does have cute branding, doesn't it? I'm
Yeah.
proud of them. Yeah,
Branding,
they're
that's the
doing cool
word.
shit. They're doing some cool shit. Graphics also, branding. Um, you know, honestly, like I'm very fortunate because I can work from home when I want to. I have an office in the city to go to if I want to, a beautiful office in Soho. So I have both options if I need to get the hell out of my house or if it is freezing and I don't want to go. I honestly think what's changed, I mean, I've always been very career oriented. I'm always okay with traveling. I love that I can travel for work because it gives me a break sometimes from parenting. But the thing that's changed most about me is having a second child. It really opened my eyes to how fast it goes. Um, and they're just so fun. They're my best friends. I'm obsessed with them, my kids. So I just don't want to miss too much. So I think I'm actually doing more. I am very career oriented. I'm crushing it where I am right now. I have a great relationship with my kids and my husband, but now I'm in participation mode, which, by the way, I do not vibe all the time with the Scarsdale moms. Like, I have a neck tattoo. My nipples are always out. Like, I'm that kind of mom. But I am on the school play committee now. I just signed up yesterday. There's like 5 other moms, and we're on the committee, and I'm a part of the PTA, and I'm the class mom.
The
So I
class
just
mom is a job. It's like president of the United States. It's just a job I never want to have.
It is so stupid. It's literally just emails all the time. I don't get to do anything cool. It's
My
very
friends tell
stupid.
me stuff about having to be the class mom. I'm always down to volunteer in the classroom for
hmm
things, but
hmm
the class mom job is
It's dumb.
something.
It's dumb. I see. I signed up because I did not get chosen to be on the field trip last year to the Central Park Zoo. So I was like, I will show them. And now I'm class mom, and the joke's on me because I have not done anything cool. But I don't know. I just want to be around. I want to watch it all. I want to be a part of it, and I
Yeah.
want to embarrass the shit out of my 8-year-old because I'm starting to embarrass him. He doesn't even know how cool I am.
That's so funny. I mean, but I think what you're pointing out is we recently had a stay-at-home parent episode where we were, and I kind of said there's so many different ways to be a stay-at-home parent. It's also true that there's so many different ways to be in the workforce, in the paid workforce, I should say, and it now really exists on a spectrum. Like, you know, I work as a consultant and I consult when I can and when I need to. I'm trying to build a business and I'm doing that as I can, but also I have the massive privilege and opportunity to like volunteer at my kids' school when I can as well.
Mhm.
And my friends, whether it be like strict corporate jobs or sort of more creative, flexible jobs, I feel like everybody's trying to find their way of how they can show up for their kids in the way that they want to, and also keep kind of going for, if they're in the paid workforce, the sort of career milestones that they're trying to get.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a
I think
huge spectrum.
Yeah, it is a huge spectrum. And whatever makes everyone happy, I think works. But my husband and I also go out a lot. And I think that is what keeps us okay
How
living
much
in
is
the
a lot?
suburbs. Like once a week together. And I mean, we rage with our friends. We come home very late. We have a babysitter that will stay till 5 a.m. We'll be animals. And then
Gabby, you
wake
are
up and go to a
so
soccer
funny.
game.
You're so funny. We'll be animals.
We'll be animals and then we'll go to soccer practice the next day. And then, like we'll each have a separate, he'll go to jujitsu, I'll go to work out with my friends, I'll go to drinks with my friends. But that also balances our life of living in the suburbs and being parents.
Yeah.
You
You
know?
can't just like totally become a new person because you had kids. And I think in terms of, I'm aware of the time, so I want to ask you a last question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see your sort of roles in terms of how you're contributing and engaging with the kids? Is that changing in terms of percentage involvement more or less as the kids are getting older? Or do you think it's sort of around the same?
It is, it's pretty even. It's pretty much the same. We have our things. We have 2 boys. So, and they are boys. They're not going to wear sparkly heels with me or do makeup. But our participation with the kids is very even. We both do drop off and pick up. We both do sports things. I'm very lucky that my partner is so involved. And we're just a tag team effort. We're also a really sweet family. It's nice. We all like to hang out together. So that's pretty great. But it's feeling pretty even. We do deal with different things though. I deal with like more of the bigger emotions and I have my ways of handling it. And dad's there to like wrestle it out.
Yeah. Wait, okay. So this is my last question since it's all so hunky dory over there. What's like the big thing that you guys do fight about?
Jeff and I,
Yeah. Or do you not fight? You
oh
do
no,
fight.
no. Oh my God, what? We've been together for 15 years. We absolutely fight. The one thing that we fight about, I mean, besides the fact that I hate doing dishes, Jeff, listen, Jeff is a 6'2", like hunk of a man. He grew up in New Jersey. I think they're bred different in New Jersey, but he's evolved, but emotions are not his easiest thing. Like if our kids get upset about something that he doesn't think they should be upset about, the stop crying comes out, and nothing makes me see red more than stop crying.
Yeah.
We are raising white men in America. They have to be able to be in touch with their feelings and understand how to deal with them. Shutting them down does not work. So I'm trying to give them tools to handle their emotions versus just being like, you're good. I don't like that. So we
Preach.
fight. So we fight.
I love that. Well, I love that
Yeah.
you guys are fighting over stuff like trying to raise emotionally intelligent men in America. That's a fight worth fighting.
It is very
Gabby, I
important.
feel like I could talk to you all day. This was so much fun.
So
I
fun.
can't wait for people to meet you in this format and fall in love with you. I'm going to start calling you about random shit. This is just such a treat. And the next time you're in
Thanks.
town to hang out with Grandma, our 92-year-old badass, let me know and I'll buy you a coffee.
This was so nice. Thank you so much for having me.
Team, I need your help. If you love it here, please like and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Subscribe to the Substack for full access to this episode's show notes and join the discussion. And of course, follow me on Instagram at Mutha, MUTHA.life for a daily look at all things Mutha. Thanks for listening. Be sure to tune in next week for another Chat in the Closet. This podcast was produced by Mutha Life, music by Ronan Landa. See you next time.